Hey, I'm Mark,
And I'm Chris.
and we're the leftovers.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
I did not agree to that.
Hey, Chris.
Mark.
What do you know good today?
Not a whole lot.
Oh, you know something good. You know me.
That sentence really didn't make sense. What do you know good?
What do you know good, Chris?
Sound like you're drunk.
It's a conversation, right?
How much have you had to drink, Mark?
I have had half of a Rip It energy drink.
Oh, okay.
You ever had a Rip It?
No, I prefer to stay away from the cheaper energy drinks. I go
Yeah.
for the more expensive ones.
It's what I can afford. Oh, yeah. Dr. Pepper.
That's today. I usually go for like Monster or Red Bull.
I heard that about you. So, racing. What do you think about racing, Chris?
What kind of racing? Well,
Car race.
I know car racing.
What do you think
Well,
about
there's
it?
also truck racing. There's motor
Well,
racing.
Car racing. Yeah. You like to see cars race, who's going to be the winner? race.
IndyCar, NASCAR. What kind are you talking about?
You name it.
No, I don't like racing.
Really? What do you got against it, Chris?
It's not my cup of tea.
What is your cup of tea?
Football.
Well, let's talk about racing.
I know you want to talk about racing. You've been so excited about it all day.
Well, when I was a child, a couple of years back, I'd watch a little NASCAR. It was fun to watch. Then,
A little NASCAR?
little NASCAR.
Not a whole lot.
Small tracks. L.A. Coliseum.
Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheel. Yeah, that was good. Evel Knievel motorcycle. I had one of those. Yeah. Racing. So, in the day, I used to enjoy a good NASCAR race on a Sunday. You know how you watch a NASCAR race?
The same way you watch golf on the couch so you can fall asleep.
So, exactly. Exactly. You watch the opening ceremonies. You watch about 10 laps. You fall asleep. Maybe you wake up a couple times during the 3-hour race. See some wrecks. Wake up, see the ending. And that's it. That's how you watch a NASCAR race. Right?
Well, you want to see all the right turns.
Yeah.
All the left turns are boring. They
Left
do
turns
that
are
over and
easy.
over.
Anybody
It's the
can
right
do.
turns you really want to see.
Anybody can do a left turn. Those right turns get you.
Yep.
So there's other forms of racing besides car racing. Although a good drag race, now we're talking
Good drag race.
good drag race, like on the street, keeping it street. Street Outlaws. That's my show.
That's okay. But
Okay, you don't have to like it.
I like the track races too, but I want a fast car on it. I don't want.
Who wants a slow car?
There's people that like
Well, I mean,
like-
you race anything.
yeah, and I don't.
If
wanna
it's
see-
slow car against slow car, though, it's enjoyable,
not for me, I want.
especially if you know the person in it. Makes it a lot more fun.
If you know the person, sure, but if it's just a race on TV, it's like I would rather see two fast things go and see who can be the fastest, not
Well,
two
still,
slow cars seeing who can.
who could be the fastest? Still the same thing.
Not really, because
Yeah, really.
no.
What about cycling, racing?
Oh no, I've never watched that.
Tour de France, watch it every year. Love it.
Well, I mean, it's one of the few sports that everybody dopes and gets away with it at all times
American
until they're
football.
until like 10 years down the road. Then
American football.
not everybody dopes in football.
Well, that's something we'll never know. Racing trucks, lawnmowers, cars. People race
Have
everything.
you seen lawnmower races?
I have seen. I seen a little ad. Well, it wasn't an ad. A little. I don't know what you call it. Short video the other day, and
Was
this,
it advertising something?
no, it was showing you upcoming race in a neighborhood, and they had about 20 lawnmowers lined up beside the road. Little kids, grown-ups, they were all having a good time, cookout, and the crescendo, if you will, of the event was the lawnmowers racing. Looked pretty awesome.
Oh,
I don't-
the way these people soup up their lawnmowers.
They were just standard
Oh,
issue
standard?
lawnmowers. Now, some people took off the blades and that whole
Make it
deal.
lighter, make it go faster.
Which I don't know if I agree with that. You can screw the carburetor screw in or out. That's adjusting enough. But let's race what we have. I enjoy a good race.
What's your least favorite race?
I don't know. Never thought about it.
You have, because
Least
I said it earlier.
favorite race. You mean in?
It was a sarcastic joke that I didn't think you would run with,
bad.
but okay.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Continue with your point.
Least favorite. Yeah, he did do that. Why do people race one another?
They want to know who's the best, who's the fastest, who's the strongest.
Do you think we humans have a need to lead? Be number one. Psyche, wise. I feel good if I'm number one, but if I'm last in the pack, whatever, I feel terrible. You think we have a need to lead?
Not everybody. There are plenty of people out there that would love to just sit back and be told what to do. I mean, in all honesty, I feel like that's the majority of people. They want to sit back and be told what to do by the leader that's in charge. They don't want to take charge and try to be the best.
I do think a lot of people have the need, not just to lead, but to get away from everyday life and have an event and racing, lawnmowers, bicycles.
Well, everybody wants to be the best at something, but for the most part, it's the best at something that they'll never get an accolade for.
Even watching your favorite sports team win, you had nothing to do with it, but it's still like, oh yeah, we got you on that one.
It's not that I didn't have anything to do with it. I have invested money into the program.
Yeah, like when you lose the one tonight.
Except for I didn't spend any money on that thing that we're talking about.
Great American Race. Did you ever watch that?
No.
I enjoyed it in the beginning. It was neat.
Did you ever see The Amazing Race?
Amazing. Yeah. Did I not just say that?
No, you said The Great American Race. See, The Amazing Race is all over the world.
Well, my bad. I can't read my own handwriting. Amazing Race. You ever seen that, Chris?
Yes.
It's a pretty good show.
Yeah.
Is it still happening? I don't know. Don't watch
I think they
regular
shut
programming.
down because of COVID, but I think they're coming back.
That was a neat show that, people are hurrying around the world to do certain tasks
to get
and to see who wins.
Get money. They're trying not to be last.
Right.
Or last two or last whatever.
Last one. Yeah. That was a neat show. I enjoyed that. So
you're talking about it in the third, like it's already passed and it's not coming back.
I haven't seen it in years. I feel like it was a lifetime ago when I did watch it. Maybe not. So the root word we're using here is
ing.
How'd you know? You're so smart. You're the smarts of this operation.
I'm just thankful for my 11th grade English teacher who failed me.
There you go. We talked about her today. Actually, at lunchtime.
We're not going to talk about that. I mean, she'll probably never listen.
But you learned a lesson from that later on.
Did I, though?
It wasn't her fault.
Who said it wasn't her fault?
She didn't have it out for you.
Who says she did?
You did.
Shut up.
That's the lesson you learned. All right. We have a question. First off, what do we want to say, Chris? Thank you guys for listening. We're not done. Hold on.
Yeah, I thought we were going to save that for the end this week.
But we appreciate each and every one of you listening. We see the analytics. We see how many you listen. We see where you listen from and all of those things. And we appreciate it. And we have had a few comments about future programs. And we are going to use them. So thank you guys for responding.
So we're going to use that thing I texted you?
No, you are not eligible.
See, you don't say that in the fine print.
I do. The fine print says Chris and Mark are not available to win these competitions. Everybody else is. Thank you. So if anybody out there wants to text 615-330-3644, the name Racing, and let us know some comments, some good, some bad, maybe content for future episodes. And we will say it, Chris.
Be appreciative.
That's what I was looking for. So again, thanks for listening, and on to the show.
Well, no, not yet. If you could share this with people.
Oh, did I forget? I always forget that part. Yeah. I'm sorry. And, comma, maybe not a comma. If you guys would share this on social media, share our link to the Leftovers. Now, there are more than one Leftover podcast out there. There's lots of them. So look for ours and these episodes that you've listened to. This one specifically, Racing. The very first one was Alone, all caps. Why we did that, I don't know.
Because my caps lock was stuck.
It's all caps Alone. That's episode 1. So that, and then all the rest of them after that. Share them on social media if you would. Follow them, like them, all that stuff that you need to do. We would greatly appreciate it. We've got intentions for this show, but we need your help.
Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Chris, the question here is racism. Is it real? Does it exist?
This is just
what is it?
This is a very, very left field transition.
You think?
Going from talking about racing to racist.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Well, the root word there is race. And if you stayed around this long, now you get the real program.
You know, we don't usually talk about sports all that much, but
it was a good opening for a show that gets pretty serious.
We try.
So, racism, Chris.
Well, let's just talk about the root word, which is race.
Yes.
And here's a change up. I'm going to give a definition.
Uh-oh.
Any one of groups that humans are divided into based on physical traits regarded as a common among people of shared ancestry. That is the definition.
Thank you.
So race in itself is just a division tool.
Yes, you are correct. That's it. End of the show. Thank you, everybody.
Well, I mean, it's not. We as humans have taken it to.
What about we as inhumans? Unhumans? Yeah.
Well, in the definition, it was dividing humans.
Yep. Not dogs.
Or cats. No, race.
So if a person is taught hate from day one of their life on this earth, and they believe the one telling them is, or more importantly, showing them how to hate, they will follow. They have to,
If they don't use their brain to...
Okay. But you learn so much between 0 and let's just call it 12 years old.
But what I'm saying is, majority of the people that are quote-unquote racist...
The reason I said the word hate is because it excludes a color. It excludes a portion of people. And what it excludes all of that. It's in general hate, and then we'll get it smaller down. But in general, if you learn hate from a young age, And that person, and I preface this, if you learn it from a person that has showed you how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, how to sleep, how to drink, all these simple processes that we learn early on, that same person or people that showed you these things have also showed you hate. So how do you distinguish at that young of an age? Okay, they taught me to walk and talk and spit and chew, whatever you've learned from them. And now that one thing that's in my mind is to hate so-and-so. We'll get to so-and-so. How do you distinguish at that young age? That's wrong.
You take the direction of the people who taught you how to hate. Like why, the reasons of why you hate this person. Majority of the time, when it comes to racist, if not all the times, has to do with the skin color and with the color of their skin, if I can talk correctly. And they don't really, in my opinion, when you have people that teach you how to hate a whole lot, it's also a way of not teaching you critical thinking.
I think, and again, this is me thinking, I know what you say, but I think the learning of hate is majority subliminal. It's not intentional. It's just how the one showing you walking, talking, those things.
How they act towards a certain person.
They're just showing you. They're not saying hate that, hate this, hate the other. They're just living life.
Yeah.
That's very hard to get away from.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially for older people. I mean, that's just the way they grew up, was that this person isn't
you. I mean, yeah. But I mean,
I'm just trying to think of how to say certain things that I don't agree with. That, I mean, there's plenty. I mean, I know of plenty old. Well, I knew of plenty old people before they had passed that were racist. They had certain views of certain minorities that were not flattering.
Do you see that? I mean, you're younger than me,
but that was the way they grew up.
That's
through that time.
Yes, and I want to. Have you ever tried to stop and think where they were coming from? Because they were being shown this hate, and again, it's coming from people that you love and you trust and you hopefully understand. And possibly, I mean, when you're a child, you want approval from your parents, your family, your grandparents, your siblings. You want approval from them. So to act like them, you see many little guys running around and they're dressed up like their dad with the shirt and the cowboy hat or, whatever. Maybe your dad wears Air Jordans and you've got on little Air Jordans. And it's neat because you're like your dad. Well, your dad may have some traits that are not so flattering. And guess who's going to pick up on them at a very, very early age?
Yes. With little kids, yeah.
Yep.
They don't have the critical thinking skills that we should be brought up to have.
And at the time, you're learning every bit of that.
Yep.
You're developing, you're learning. And where do you, I mean, like we can sit here and say we knew people that were quote unquote racist, but do we know people?
Yes, I do know people
who are, but my instant answer would be I knew people. So does that mean maybe the idea of racism is lessening in your world, my world?
I mean, in my belief, yes, racism is becoming a lesser and lesser thing. But I think the political climate that we are in right now, I hate to do it, but to go
no,
to
you
politics,
don't. You're smiling.
No, I'm not.
I'm joking.
I don't like bringing up politics,
Right.
But I mean, it's the way of our society right now. Is our political leaders are having a humongous input in our lives. And right now, I see that a lot of politicians, majority on, I'm not saying all of it's on this side, but the majority of it is on the Democratic side. But they try to make it sound they're being racist towards minorities, but they are using it by trying to make it sound like white people are the problem, but they're using, I guess, do you know what a backwards compliment is?
Yes.
Or a reverse compliment.
Reverse.
And so it's like, an example of what I'm trying to say is like,
nice job, MAGA.
No.
That's a reverse compliment.
I was listening to a leader for, I don't think it was Black Lives Matter. It might have been, it was on like NBC, no, it was on CNN that I heard it. This woman was saying that voter ID laws were racist.
Right. Because
black people don't have the ability to go get an ID, whether it's the cost or whatever, or they're not. It's basically making them sound like they're not smart enough to know where to go get an ID.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the people aren't smart enough. It's just they haven't gone to go get an ID. They don't have a need for an ID.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just don't want to go vote. But they're trying to find every which way of saying that it's racist because these people don't do something, so we've got to make an excuse for why it's this way.
Could you see, though, let's take inner city Chicago.
Okay.
I've never went to Illinois, never went to Chicago, but I watched Good Times.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with anything, but that's my look at inner city Chicago. And if 18-year-old young man in inner city Chicago wanted to get a voter ID, and he was going to have to travel X amount of miles to get it. From all accounts, it's going to be pretty hard for that to happen. Could it happen? Sure it could. A lot of times, though, I think me specifically looking at inner city situations versus the situations I've lived in my whole life, totally opposites. And same thing could be said for inner city young man looking at how we live. You know, oh my goodness, you don't have a so-and-so on every corner, and, you know, you've got to travel how many miles to get, you know, issues and things that you need. So for us to say that, now, could those laws be looked at in a other way? Sure. I don't specifically think, and I could be wrong, that those laws are racist, but they could be, I don't even know the right word, culturally swayed. That's not racism. Because someone doesn't have the means to get something is not racist. You're saying if a group of people aren't able to get an ID, then they all have to be black, or they all have to be Mexican, or they all have to be Japanese. And so because that race is poor, or they have no transportation between anybody, then you're saying, even if you're upholding what's going on in the ID thing that we're talking about, then you're saying as a person that my group is not ignorant. That's not the right word. My group is not capable, like you said, not capable, not maybe smart enough to get an ID, and or possibly they don't have internet in their home like we suspect everybody would have, or on our phone. Maybe they don't have a cell phone. Maybe they don't have. But at the end of the day, do you really want to vote? Is that really a thing in your life?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But
I know that was a long way to say that,
but going off your thing, we're talking about. Well, you just said something about. Well, you think everybody has internet or a phone, but those are things that are being subsidized by the government.
Some.
A lot.
Some.
Nice. Why don't you go ahead and
drink
open it?
Number 2.
Just go ahead and open it.
Tried to be discreet. Come on.
But I mean, a lot of the racism that you see these days is ignorance, or even the people that are trying to, the people that say that they are for, well, I'll just go with black people for this. The groups that I see, not all of them, but a lot of them that are out there politically are saying that these people are so
just say it.
I'm trying to think of how to say it without.
Say it like you normally would.
Okay. You have
Don't worry about being politically correct.
You have all these groups out there that are trying to sound like they are being for black people, but they're not. They're putting black people down as stupid, ignorant people who can't take care of themselves. So we have to take away things from these groups of people to give to this community because everybody else over here can take care of themselves and has that is smart enough to be able to do what they're supposed to. So we've got to give it to this other group over here because they're not smart enough. I mean, that's affirmative action policies for schools. I do believe that schools used to be very racist, and they would not allow black people into their school or Asian people into their school.
And you're saying that, okay, I'm going to try to get an understanding on here. This is an interesting topic, that when schools were separated,
segregated schools,
certain colors went to certain schools.
Correct.
That was wrong.
I do believe schooling people by their race is wrong. Correct.
And even if it turns out to be situational, like if your neighbor, your whole neighborhood is a certain way, color, whatever, and your whole school is that same way, then that's wrong.
No. If you are just in a neighborhood where everybody's black and the school just so happens to be black, no, that's not a bad thing. When it's, say, you're in a school zone next to these projects, and only 30% of the school kids are supposed to be white. But because they're white, they've got to go to this other school. And these black people have to go over here.
Yeah. I see a problem with that.
But they should all be zoned for the same school.
Same school. I think, speaking of neighborhoods, that's what your schools should look like. I think. I mean, I might be wrong, but how do you learn? But yeah, I'm going to stick with that one. That's what your school system should look like, of where you are, what that is. But so many times you hear about kids, parents trying to get them out of a certain school system because the school system is awful.
Yes.
And they want to get their kids to something a little better. Some have the means, some do not.
Well, that's where, I mean, we're going to go off of race here, but school choice is a thing that there are a few states that have it, where the money doesn't just go to the school, the money goes with the student. So say you're at school A, that's a terrible, horrible school, but then there's school B, which is a charter school or possibly even a private school, that instead of having the money go to this public school where the student is supposed to go, that money can then be used to send the student to a different, better school. Where
does the money come from?
Taxes.
So every child gets that option?
Yes.
To go where they want to go?
Yes. So
what? Okay.
A child that goes to a public school that does not have the doesn't have the resources to be challenging to the student or have the ability to teach that student for whatever reason it is, they have the ability to take the money that is with that would have gone to the school for that student, could then be used towards the student going to this school to help them in their situation.
Okay. So what if that situation winds up looking like segregation? All the white kids go to one school, all the black kids go to another. What if it turned out that way? What does that say? I'm not saying it would, but what if?
That would be people choosing that. But it's not people being forced to do that.
No.
Yes, there would be a lot of parents that would want their kids to go to the same kind of school that culturally the people are similar.
Yep. And that's not white or black. That's just neighborhoods. I think you want to go to school with people you live around for the most part.
But say that there's a kid that's in we'll say there's a black kid that goes to the nearest neighborhood school that they're zoned for.
Yep.
But they're not being challenged because the teacher is ill prepared because they don't care. They got tenure. I can just do whatever.
Right. I had some of those.
Yeah.
Learned absolutely nothing from them. But I had to deal with it and keep rolling with it.
But that's the thing.
I've got stories about it today.
But that's the thing about the school choice, is that student doesn't have to go to that school where the teachers aren't helping them. The teachers aren't teaching them anything. They're basically glorified babysitters that.
Isn't that what schools are anyway?
No, schools are supposed to be where kids learn.
Okay. You can learn at home.
Yeah, you can be homeschooled.
Sure.
But that's where I'm coming out.
If the school system in general went away tomorrow, kids would still learn.
Some kids would.
Well, it's like regular school. Some kids learn, some kids don't.
Well, there are some kids that can learn in a school
setting
environment, and that would be perfect for them.
It's not going to be 100% for everybody.
No.
We're getting off subject.
Well, sort of, but not really. But I mean, there are real life things that can happen depending on your choices or the choices of others. Segregation used to be the law of the land. There had to be a place for whites, there had to be a place for blacks.
Yeah.
There was not really...
That's wrong.
Yes.
Plain and simple. And I don't know of one person living today that would say, hey, that was great. And if they did, they're very much in the minority. They're not in the majority.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
The majority of people think that the segregation of people on their skin color...
Yep. Totally wrong.
Yes. It is a very, very small part of
that small group's always going to exist, no matter what. Yeah.
But because we have our phones, we have the news media that we have.
I have a flip phone.
No, you don't. I mean, you have a terrible Android phone, but
come on, Chris.
But what I'm trying to get at is,
what are you trying to get at?
Is we have news being forced into our social media, news being forced into, whether it's, even if it's a regular TV show, you're having some form of an agenda from the political elite trying to have something forced upon you.
But you don't have to watch it. You don't have to listen to it. You can be your own person.
But that goes back to the earlier comment of people don't really want to be their own person. They want to be like everybody. They want to be, quote unquote, normal.
Yeah, I get it. And
I'll make an example. I don't believe that most people think Taylor Swift is the best artist, country artist or pop artist out there. But because there's a group of people that love her, and now you have, oh my goodness, all these people like Taylor Swift. I'm going to like Taylor Swift too.
Swifties.
Yes.
And you are one of them.
I am not.
Is your daughter?
No.
Come on now.
Nope.
Your wife?
No. That was one of the few things that I knew I wanted to marry her for. She hated Taylor Swift.
She's not a Swiftie.
Nope.
Is that what they call them? I don't know. I'm just making stuff up.
That sounds right, so I'll go with it.
Swiftite. Systemic racism.
Oh, good Lord.
That's a word we've heard a lot the last few years. Systemic racism. That's where the whole system is racist in their practices. Whatever the system is, they're racist in their practices.
I heard a debate on it just the other day. I was listening to two people fight about systemic racism.
Yeah.
And it was two black people.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start out with saying something. And you don't have to agree with me. That's okay. You usually don't.
Correct.
Our opening to our show says, I do not agree to you. Something like that.
Agree to you? I do not agree to you.
Something like that.
I don't agree to that.
Yeah. Like I said, something like that. I don't believe in racists. Race. I think there is a human race. Period. I personally believe, and I know what people listening to this show is going to say, everybody's not like you. Well, I can't twist everybody's arm to be like me, nor would I want to. That's why we're all different. Chocolate and vanilla. That's a saying. It has nothing to do with colors of people. But I think people are people. There are good ones, and there's not so good ones.
But there again, you're putting people in categories.
No. The only reason I put them in that is just to say you know, people are going to wrong you along your life's journey. It's going to happen.
But who's to say what's right and wrong?
Me.
You're still categorizing.
If you stomped me on my foot on purpose and you said, "You joker,"
somebody might have seen that from another view and said, "Oh, he was trying to kill the spider that was on your toe."
they could say that, but they would be wrong.
And he was trying to be funny, just calling you a joker.
So if I perceive you at that point as he's not a good guy, still love him, he's not a good guy to me. Maybe great to his family, maybe great to everyone else in the world, but to me, it was not so good.
Are we talking about someone in particular?
Just you and me.
Oh, you're talking about me. I see what it is.
So that in my world, the way I perceive, and I'm not trying to say my way's right and your way's wrong and your way's wrong. I'm just saying the way I have to live my life is to look at the only
way, and it's right.
That you're saying.
No,
is to look at people as that people. There are short people, there are tall people, there's wide people, there's skinny people. There's all kinds of people you encounter every day. I do encounter lots of people out to eat, at the work, and out on the road, you know, stores around my hometown. And I just perceive that as people. I don't have a preconceived. Now, if you're standing in line at the grocery store and there's a guy in front of you and maybe he's hair challenged like myself, your mind is going to think, well, that guy's bald. Wonder what happened. Like he's got cancer, or he's just lost his hair. Maybe he shaves it that way. That's just the kind of way the mind works. Maybe he's got on a slick pair of shoes, and you notice them. Hey, it's a nice pair of shoes he's got there. But that shirt he's got on, that's crap. Look at his groceries. What's he buying? You know,
look at his face.
Well, you're behind him.
I'm in front of you.
So you ask these questions while you look at folks, and those are legit, because as soon as you're out of that grocery store, there's no lingering effects about the guy that was in front of you at the grocery store. So in general, I think we look at one another as a quick glimpse of what I think of the next person. In general, I don't think you look at a white person and say, they got to be a whatever, fill in your blank, because they're white. Or Mexican person over there has to be a roofer because they're, you know, that's just not my mindset.
We should be judging people individually and not based on...
You shouldn't judge them.
You know what I meant.
Having an idea just on generalities of what you see on the front end. Now, as you get to know people, you're not going to like them as much. It just happens. That guy at the grocery store probably hits his wife when he goes home. He had a 6-pack of beer with him. You know, that goes hand in hand, right?
No.
That's the way a lot of folks look at it. You start judging. It went from the good pair of shoes to the, wait a minute, he's got a 6-pack with him. Some cigarettes. Yeah, he probably beats his wife if he's got one.
I had a teacher in high school that said that everybody he looked at, whether they were white, black, or other color, that if he saw somebody wearing a wife beater or even just a sleeveless shirt, he thought that, oh, they're just going to be a wife beater if they're not already.
Yeah.
Yes, instantly.
Yeah. I don't.
And then I made the comment behind his back that, oh, because of his mustache, he looks like a pedophile.
See? There you go. Go ahead.
I didn't have anything. It was I'm laughing about it. I was not a fan of that man.
Yeah. Well, I was reading an article, Chris.
No way.
Little article.
You read an article?
Yeah. A little bit. And the slogan make America great again, some would say was white racial resentment. Some would say that. I don't know what that even means. It would be racist. Let's just say it that way. But
knowing
I don't
knowing
think
where you got the article from, it's probably saying that it's white people resenting people of other races.
Other races, possibly. I don't believe "Make America Great Again" in its origin meant "Make America White Again." I don't believe that, but I could be wrong.
There are people who twist it to make it that, but the person who started that, being Donald Trump, and the majority of the people that take on that moniker are not saying make it white again. They want to go back to a time of economic prosperity that we are definitely not in, especially today. Just look at your grocery bill.
Look at your grocery bill.
I did.
So this guy that the article I was reading wrote a book. That's hard to believe. Book writers.
What's his name?
Wilson. We'll just call him Wilson. His last name.
Oh.
Wilson. There might be some copyright infringements or something if I say his whole name. We'll call him Wilson. Wilson. I don't know what that even means. Sounded funny.
Castaway.
Oh. There was words in Castaway?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. It says, in our era, E-R-A, era, earn, run, average. In our era, there you go, Americans are constantly having to, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong sentence. Cut that out, Chris. In your everyday lives. No, that's wrong too. I read this 3 times before we got started, and now I'm lost. And the idea, some people will say that black folks have their own channel. That's just wrong, right? You heard people say that?
Yes. But I don't believe that it's wrong to have that.
Black entertainment television. And you know what other folks would say?
Where's white entertainment?
Where's wet at?
Where's wet?
White entertainment television.
Yes.
And then the other side would tell you that's every other channel, you idiot. Well, yeah. I mean, that's how ignorance happens.
Correct.
Stupid on top of stupid equals stupid. So if systemic racism is a real thing, that's why I put it in there. If it's a real thing, then our political landscape, some other things we've talked about, our school systems, our economic developments, our, anything you can think of that has a system involved, even our sports systems. If we have systemic racism, rampant, as some of the articles I read, if it's as rampant as these articles said, then I believe also, although my eyes are probably jaded, I'm guessing, but I'll never know it. Like, I'm colorblind, but hey, I still see colors. But if systemic,
You set it up there. I had to take it.
If systemic racism is a thing, then I think our systems would be very obvious. I'm thinking, and I don't see it. Can you twist a thing to look like you want it to? Yes. Do people do that? Oh, yes.
But
you said, but
but when you can have so many different people look at something and not see race in it, it's not racist. But when something is defined as someone doesn't deserve something or someone does deserve something because of their color of their skin, it is racist.
We've got to elect a president that's a old white man. The Democrats said that was something they would get away from, and what did they
went right
for?
Back to an old white man.
Why? Because he was the next one in line.
Yeah.
The Republicans will do the same thing.
Unless we make a change.
Whatever's next in line, we'll vote for it.
No.
Yep. But what we're talking about was systemic racism.
Okay, but if there was systemic racism, there would be a law out there someone could find that says because of this race or because you are this color or this, you cannot be in charge of a...
Systemically speaking, though, does that not say that, like, your police system is set up to harm or wrong, if you will, a certain color? I think in my mind, that's what it says. I don't think that's what it is, but I think that's what it says as systemic racism, that it was set up. And I'll use the cops for example, that the system is there to blatantly look for minorities in the wrong. That's what systemic racism looks like.
But people we'll go back to, I'll use an example of New York City.
You can do that.
When Giuliani got in as mayor of New York City, he implemented stop, question, frisk. People call it stop and frisk. But the whole premise of it was you see someone that is suspicious, quote unquote, you stop them, you question them, and if they're clean, let them go. If not, then you can go into further of a pat down or whatever. People got upset because the majority of the stop, question, and frisk stuff started happening in majority black neighborhoods. Well, later on, when Bloomberg got into office after Giuliani, he was asked the question of, why is this happening only in black neighborhoods? And he pulled out he didn't pull it out, but he quoted the statistics of, that's where the majority of the crime is in these neighborhoods.
Racist!
That's what people said.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, because you call something like that out, and again, my opinion, that's why I have the show with Chris. That's why we have the show
with Mark and Chris,
because we can say what we want to sometimes.
Okay, but another thing is people all the time talk about how the black population is
black.
Shut up. The black population has what is it? Compared to the whole
United
States, the percentage of black people that are in prison is significantly higher than.
But they were in prison because of systemic racism.
And that's what people would say.
I know. That's why I just said it.
But there is another possibility of that.
Maybe their situation just sucks, and they had to quit school early, and they didn't get raised properly, and maybe they only had one parent in the household, and maybe their situation just sucked.
Maybe they just
blanked on us, didn't you?
Maybe they commit disproportional amounts of crime.
That's what I'm saying. If their situation just sucked, it ain't got nothing to do with the color on their back.
No, but that's the thing about the way the system is supposed to be set up to be is you don't judge somebody or give or you don't treat them different because of the color of their skin. You treat a person on their merit.
Yep.
A person is supposed to be able to get a job because they either have the qualifications or the ability to do it.
So you don't think hiring a person because you don't have enough of a certain color in your workplace is lawful?
No. Well, by affirmative action, it is.
I'm just asking. This is between me and you.
I don't think it's right. No.
I don't either.
Whether it's sex,
I don't understand
race,
it, I guess.
Whether it's say.
Well, I mean, if you worked in a logging company and they said we can't hire women, the work's too heavy. Is that being what's the word where men
sexist?
Sexist. I mean, yeah, I guess by definition it is, but they're actually trying to help more than they're trying to hurt sex. But if you're in a situation where and I'll use 100 because I usually do. If you were in a situation where you had 100 workers and they're all relatively the same, and all of a sudden the government says, well, you need to have 8 to 10% of minorities on your workforce. One, that doesn't help the 8 or 10% you're putting on. And two, what happens to the 8 or 10% you got to get rid of in order to hire the 8 to 10% that the government now says you have to have? Where does that help anybody?
Well, we'll go with the school policy that just came out of, I can't remember where it was out of. Basically, the school had an affirmative action quota. They had to have so many of these minorities. They were turning away much more qualified Asian students because they had too many for their quota. They were turning away white people, but they were accepting so many more black students just because they were black because they had a quota to fill. That is not good for our country, and that's definitely not good for these students. It's proven that you put somebody in a situation they're not ready for, and they're going to fail. So just accepting somebody...
You could also challenge them, though. If you put me in a situation I wasn't ready for, it could challenge me to level up. Just saying.
Well, the study that showed, though, was there were the percentage that rose up to the challenge, but a large majority of the people flunked out. And I mean, even if you flunk out of Harvard...
You said flunk.
Yes. If you flunk out of Harvard, that's still going to
make Harvard.
Well, it's still going to make it very hard to go to another school.
It's still Harvard. You can still go to UT Martin.
That's it. They would take you. You failed out of this school. What makes you think you can be in this school?
Harvard. Level down.
You got to go to community college. You fell out of Harvard.
Know anything about that?
Flunking out of community college? No. I know something about not going to classes. College wasn't for me. Shut up.
So, Chris, what have we learned today about race-ism-ing?
Oh, I didn't. Well, I learned a few things, but the majority of it I've known my whole life because of the way my parents raised me.
Oh, yeah.
Not only to not judge somebody on the color of their skin, but
love everybody.
Yes, but also thankful for the critical thinking skills that were taught.
Critical race theory. I know.
No, CRT is a whole bunch of crap.
Come on now.
I said crap.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they gave me critical thinking skills so that if I was around people that I thought were my friends that were saying racist things, I could know that that is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I could use my critical thinking to say, that person's no different than me just because of the color of the skin.
Yep.
You might be a butthole because you're mean to me, but it's not because of the color of your skin. It's just because you're butthole.
Enos.
What?
Enos.
Enos.
Buttholiness. Never mind.
I think that's a good place to stop. Buttholiness.
No, you know, as Christians, we're commanded to love one another. And it does not say love one another if they look like you, love one another if they act like you, love one another, blah, blah, blah. It just says, what's it say, Chris?
Love
Oh, it says love one another.
Well, it also, when God created man and woman, he did not say he created them this color or that color.
No.
All it said is he created man and woman.
And they probably didn't look like us. Ooh, they probably did not look like us.
Well, they most definitely didn't look like us.
Or you, anyway.
Or
They may have looked like you, Neanderthal.
Shut
Neanderthal. Getting hard to talk. Getting late in the day. No.
Or you're just getting old and it's close to bedtime.
Love your neighbor as yourself. That's one commandment from Jesus. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, how do we love ourselves? Yeah, he's just not going good. But
what?
When you look in the mirror, that guy there, you probably overanalyze in the mirror and probably underanalyze in some areas. But you would do anything for that person. That's how we are commanded to love everyone. Do we strive to? I didn't say succeed at, but strive to love everybody in our contact as we love ourselves.
We should strive for that, but
we should. We should. And you think if everyone strived to do that, what kind of world we live in?
We would be in a much better world if everybody would strive for that. But
you can't wait for the next one to do that.
Nope. You can only take care of yourself.
Yep. And maybe your kids. Just a little. You have a little control over that.
Just until they get old enough that they can make their own choices.
Yep. About 3 or 4 and you're done.
Don't tell me that. You jerk.
But I do believe that I don't think race is a thing. That's just me, and not a lot of people agree with that. That's fine. But I think dividing people up is wrong. We could have took this in other areas today. Not just race, but how we divide folks up to conquer. It's not right. We ought not divide folks. Think we're all one. We're all oneness. We came from the same place. We're the same thing. And we should love each other that way. Yes.
Yep. All right. I think we're going to call it a day for now. And come back at it in a week from now. So we'll try to do this again.
Happy Labor Day.
This is going to be way past Labor Day.
Goodbye.
Bye.